Alright, hi, welcome to part 2 of Saturday, October 19th of 2024. So it is currently around, I don't know, probably close to about 6:15 in the morning. I responded back to Christian, and I decided to look up pressure in the head, and it said the most common reason why there's pressure in the head, it's headaches. So yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. I got a headache cooking, so I gotta apply heat to lower neck and shoulder area. Once I get there. What did Lenin think of Stalin? Well, yeah, I just got a YouTube notification about a history YouTube channel that I subscribe to, that like goes through all different aspects of history, but kind of tells it in a way that I kind of enjoy from time to time. I don't watch the channel too often, but I will if I find something interesting to watch from it. Alright, let's see here. So around the time of the birth of the Soviet Union, during the Russian Civil War, which kind of happened during World War I, it was the Reds versus the Whites, because it's the Russian Civil War. The White Army, which was all for the monarchy, and then the Red Army was obviously the abolishment of the monarchy and wanting communism. And the leader of the Red Army was Vladimir Lenin. And one of his top commanders during the Russian Civil War was not Joseph Stalin, but a certain named Leon Trotsky. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We will go to get McDonald's. So anyways, the Red Army beat the White Army. The Russian Empire had collapsed, but the birth of the very soon Soviet Union was secure. And so, after the war, Vladimir Lenin was under bad health, and which began, talks of a successor. Everyone expected him to pick, his right-hand man, which was Leon Trotsky. But unfortunately, Stalin, power-hungry, kind of stayed in the shadows and manipulated top members of, Lenin's inner circle. That kind of secured Stalin to be Lenin's successor. And so Lenin died, and Stalin, and Stalin's grip of power was 100% secure, and he's booted Trotsky out of the country. Trotsky would end up living the rest of his life in Mexico in exile, and then Stalin had him ordered Trotsky to die in 1940, while surprisingly a year later in 1941, Operation Barbarossa, the Nazis invade the Soviet Union. So yeah, there's a great video by Alternate History Hub that kind of explains a very interesting scenario in which that Stalin doesn't rise to power in the Soviet Union, but Trotsky does. Which, Trotsky was supposed to take power, not Stalin. But, but there's also a lot of questions as in, okay, if Trotsky did end up becoming the supreme ruler of the Soviet Union, would World War II still occur of, the Western powers of democracy and, I guess, some monarchy against the Nazis and war against, communism? So I guess like democracy versus fascism versus communism? Or would all the Western powers have to align themselves with, align together to defeat communism as like an alternate World War II? I mean, it's possible. Because think of it this way, with fascism, when it completely died out at the end of the war, many countries and everyone saw it as as really unpopular, and had, communism as a popular alternative to democracy, or, some form of like socialism. Some type of socialism that wasn't, National Socialism, or, Nazi, or, fascist. But in this alternate timeline, that same video by Alternate History Hub says, and talks about, says that even though fascism was bad, it was conquered by the communism, that fascism would probably become a popular alternative instead of communism. So it kind of worked the same way, but kind of alternate a little bit. I don't know. Is communism the best form of government? Absolutely not. I mean, I get it, equal pay for equal, or a full on equality, but equal in sense that the state controls everything. So like if you and your neighbor collectively have like 4 cars, but you have 3 and your neighbor has like 1, then by due to equality, you and your neighbor will have to end up having 2 cars. I think that's how it works, but I don't think that's a good example, honestly, but that's the only thing I can come up with right now, with my brain being as tired as it is. So yeah. That's all I gotta say about that. Is fascism a good form of government? Well, okay, let me just say this. All forms of government has some cons, but also some pros. So there's kind of a little bit of both for all types of government, whether it be a republic, a democracy, communism, or hell, even fascism. There's some pros and cons with all of them. It's just, unfortunately, that especially when it comes to like a republic, technically a republic, democracy, communism, and fascism kind of revolves around the same tendencies, just a little bit. I've never been inside that antique store, and I walk by it almost all the time. But yeah, I've never been in there. One of these days when I'm like off, I should like go in there and like take a look. Cause I've never fully been in there, like, ever. But yeah, anyways, you have a republic which has, you can have as many different kinds of like political parties as you want, which could also be interpreted as a democracy. But, in most cases, 9 times out of 10, if you're going to be over in the far left, the extreme far left is unfortunately communism. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, being the extreme far right means you're a nationalist and, a fascist. Or in most terms, in our political climate, if you're far left, you're a communist. Like the teachings of Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, and Mao Zedong, and all of that. But if you're in the far right, then you're a fascist, or even worse, a neo-Nazi. Like a skinhead. That's why I feel like in American politics today, most of everybody is like a moderate on like both sides. I mean, funny thing is that I kind of started out as a liberal, and then I kind of slowly started moving myself like towards the right of the spectrum. And I would say by the time like a week or two after Obama became president in 2008, when he was elected, and became the first black president in American history, but yeah, after that, like after Obama became president, That's probably the most liberal I probably ever was, with maybe one exception, but we'll get there in a little bit. So then I started moving more towards the right. By the time 2012 rolled around for, Obama's re-election bid against Mitt Romney, who was governor of Massachusetts at the time, I was still towards the left, but as like a left moderate, but I was on the right side of that. So I was like right along the middle of like being a moderate liberal and like a centralist or like an independent. And so I kept moving a little more and more right until I was like really in the middle. And 2016 happened, and Trump and Hillary going up against each other. Hillary being the first major candidate that was, female from, either party. And, Trump being, Trump. I was vocally anti-Trump. And I was probably the most liberal ever because I saw him as, someone that wanted to get into the political scene with no political experience, try to spiel out American nationalism, and in a way I kind of saw him as America's Hitler. And so, that was probably the most liberal I ever was. And that was 8 years ago. And pretty much ever since, like especially in the first 100 days of Trump's presidency in 2017, he was actually doing a lot of good for this country. And I started moving, I kind of became a moderate Republican. And hell, when I was registering to vote for the first time in 2018, that's when I registered myself as a Republican. But then I also kind of started to go a little bit further right. So I guess you could say I kind of slowly became just a little bit right-wing, but not, extreme right-wing. And that's kind of where we stand now. I'm like on the cusp between of like a moderate Republican to like a little bit far right, just a little bit. I think the more far right that I am is like out of all the major issues, the only issue where I feel I'm kind of far right is immigration and diplomacy. Everything else, I feel like I am a moderate for most of the other main issues, like the economy and abortion and most of the other stuff. But when it comes to homeland security and immigration, that's where I become far right, which is weird, but you win some, you lose some, I guess. Alright, we're almost to Macca's, but then again, we're almost to Mark Street. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this off here, go get some Macca's, and then go home. Oh, God. Alright. We'll see you next time. Well, you know, in part 3. Unless I decide to play some Pokemon Go on the rest of the way home, which is also possible, but who knows? Alright, we'll see you in the next part, or whatever the next video is.